This video is sponsored by the language learning app, Babbel. Use the link in the description to receive up to 65% off your subscription. Nova was 7 years old when he found out he had cancer, acute lymphocytic leukemia. Although he was still too young to fully realize what this meant, he knew by the faces of his mother and father that this was indeed very bad news. Over the following years, Nova went through the phases of chemotherapy and the processes of treatment. He was a strong and resolute child, but understandably, he still often wondered to himself why he was so unlucky. Why was I given cancer? Why me? He would ask himself. For years, Nova went through the physical and emotional pains of fighting against the cells in his own blood and bone marrow. When he was 12 years old, he won the fight. He was fully in remission. Although physically healthy, he remained forever infected by the experience. He had made and lost so many friends with the same or similar conditions throughout his treatment process. He witnessed children just like him die before they saw their teenage and adult years. He witnessed their families witness this. He experienced the traumatic uncertainty of not knowing for sure if he would be next. When it came to deciding what he wanted to do with the rest of his life, it was obvious. He wanted to prevent, or at least minimize and better manage, as many cases of cancer as possible. And so, he studied biochemistry, engineering science, and pharmacology, seeking the intersections of genome sequencing, AI and machine learning, and their possible applications towards various medical treatments. Throughout the process, the flame of his motivation remained lit by the hellish experience of his childhood. In the year 2041, at age 28, Nova founded a biotechnology company that worked to develop powerful machine learning technologies that could detect, manage, and fight genetic disorders at an immensely accurate level. 10 years later, in 2051, using his technologies, Nova discovered and formulated a revolutionary line of drug treatments that genetically engineered cells to fight off disorders and conditions like cancer. Nova would become responsible and be credited with being the first person to create a versatile cure for various forms of cancer. Over the following years, he would go on to save the lives of millions of people across the globe, and Nova would go down in history as one of the most important and positively impactful people to ever cross humanity. In the year 2061, several years later, a boy named Draven was born. At 3 years old, Draven was diagnosed with an astrocytoma, brain cancer. Prior to Nova's early detection technology and non-invasive drug treatment, Draven would not have survived past early childhood. But because of Nova's work, Draven's life was saved. By age 5, he was completely cured, and Draven would go on to live a healthy life. However, as an adult, he would soon become a sort of cancer himself. After climbing the ranks of one of the world's largest militaries, Draven became one of the most ruthless and powerful military generals the world had seen since the 20th century, if not ever. In 2111, in a relatively brief but stark outbreak of war, Draven was solely responsible for unduly executing a nuclear attack on a major enemy city. In a panic, the opposition reciprocated. In a near instant, tens of millions of lives were lost because of Draven. Over the days, weeks, and months following the initial explosion, more lives continued to be lost from critical injuries and radiation exposure. For every life Nova saved, including Draven's, a multiple of lives were now lost because of Draven's, because of Nova's. Following the existential horrors of the event, all global powers surrendered and agreed to settle. The world mourned its own self-destruction, and Draven would become known as one of the most evil, negatively impactful individuals to ever cross humanity. Several months later, he was assassinated. On the long list of those directly affected by the nuclear attack was a young 14-year-old girl named Alexandra. Living far enough away from the nuclear detonation and thermal pulse, Alexandra survived, but being much older, her father and mother, who suffered sufficient radiation exposure, passed away in the weeks following the attack. Following this, Alexandra's view of humanity's future understandably soaked in cynicism. Within the debris of the explosion were giant shards of pessimism and hopelessness. Because of the events, Alexandra became deeply concerned about the fact that she shared a planetary home with a species armed with the weaponry, technology, and powers of a god, while also the ignorance and temperament of a fallible, irrational animal. And yet, there were no other homes to go to if anyone like Draven became angry again and decided to burn the whole house down, or if someone just accidentally left the stove on. And so, because of Draven's actions, Alexandra made it her life's mission to ensure that humanity became a multiplanetary species as soon as possible. She would go on to study mathematical physics and quantum mechanics in pursuit of this mission. The problem she soon realized, however, was that given the current conditions of technology and humanity's understanding of time and space, there was simply no way to effectively and efficiently get beyond the moon or Mars. What was needed was a new understanding of the nature of time and space and the universe itself in order to get out of the Earth's solar system and onto other Earth-like planets. With the memory of that catastrophic event and the loss of her parents hung at the hearth of Alexandra's drive and aspiration. In the year 2141, after a cacophony of failures and rejections and hardships, she did it. She discovered what would become established as the theory of everything. With this theory, Alexandra revealed and explained an oversight of the theory of general relativity that, for the first time, now allowed for an integration of quantum mechanics and the possibility of space travel faster than the speed of light. With this, Alexandra had found the key to the prison that was Earth's solar system, and she would become that rare kind of genius who only comes once in a century, if that. Over the following many years, humanity would explore and touch realms of the universe it had only seen through telescopes and dreamed of in science fiction stories. New planets were discovered, new homes were constructed, new lives and futures were established. By 2281, humanity was a multiplanetary species with bases, communities, nations, and social political systems forming and growing on planets all around the Milky Way. In the year 2991, a massive asteroid several hundred miles wide in diameter was suddenly knocked in the direction of Earth. In an effort to alter its course, humanity shot nuclear devices at it. This effort minimized the space object's size, but a giant several-mile-wide fragment still remained on course for Earth, now further accelerated by the explosion. This massive asteroid fragment would collide with Earth's surface, and in an instant, destroy anything and anyone within hundreds of square miles of it. This would ultimately cause an alteration in all of Earth's climate, as well as a destruction of most of Earth's technological systems. The remaining portion of the human race still on Earth either left to other planets before impact, or got sent back to the ages of their ancient ancestors. If humanity was not already elsewhere, it would have been sent back collectively to some form of the starting line of history. Because of Alexandra's work, however, humanity continued on. For every life Draven had ended, a compounding multiple of lives were now saved because of Alexandra's. In a weird way, because of Draven's. Several years later, in the year 2301, while on a standard Voyager mission, a medium-sized crew of explorers landed on a newly mapped Earth-like planet they were set to begin development on. While on the planet, they encountered something no explorer had encountered before. In the middle of a patchy field of grass and sand stood a massive, pure black obelisk. It had perfect edges and angles and was clearly placed there on purpose. Hesitantly, the Voyager crew approached. As they did, they noticed symbols displayed on the face of it. As they got closer, the symbols appeared to change. By the time they reached up to it, the symbols had been translated into the following. Greetings. We hope this message finds you well. We have known of you for quite some time. Some of you have known of us. We see you have finally left home. Congratulations. What you have now gained in freedom and power, though, you have lost in innocence. You are now playing in the workplace of the universe, not the sandbox of Earth. We have watched you play in your sandbox with imaginary friends that you called gods, and now we have watched you grow up just enough to believe you yourself are them. But let us assure you, there are no imaginary friends out here, and no gods believe themselves to be one. You still seem to believe you know what is good and what is bad. You continue to think good and bad things happen to you, for you, or because of you, a lingering sign of your youthful belief in a godlike intelligence that cares about you, or a godlike intelligence that you possess. You see an event and all you see is the event that happened, but everything that has happened and everything that will happen has already happened, all connected, everywhere, all at once. Things do not happen to you, for you, or because of you, for good or bad reasons. They happen around and through you for reasons that are only about you when you realize you are not actually you. You believe that you are separate from everything because you define and separate things, but it is you who does this, not reality. So it goes with all species who still think they are the only child of the universe. Everything is about them. Consider this a warm congratulations and a grave warning. You've been lucky to get this far, but know that luck is just chaos that has worked in favor of your survival up until this point. The only gods out here are the odds. See now that the most important technology you will need will not be found in the machines you build, but the truths and wisdoms you realize. Your greatest threats are certainty and self-deception. Your greatest weapons are humility and thoughtfulness. Know that we are watching, and we will, like we did with most of those before you, be forced to imprison your entire species if you show us you are not ready. It is far too risky out here for ignorance and ego. But if you show us that you are ready, we will welcome you in, and you will become one of us. You will become reality. Sincerest and best of wishes. The leader of the Voyager group stared blankly at the obelisk. With a gesture of his arm and hand, he ordered his crew to assemble and aim their weapons toward it. Then, the commander paused, while his crew awaited his order. This video was sponsored by Babbel. The human mind understands the world through language. It is how we categorize, make sense of, and express reality. And something extremely interesting is how understanding different languages can literally change your understanding of the world in general. What would life look like for you if you understood another language? Perhaps one you've always wanted to learn, but have never had the time to. Babbel makes learning new languages easy, efficient, and effective. With courses on a wide variety of different languages with multiple ways to learn, whether through games, podcasts, videos, live classes with teachers, or short interactive lessons, Babbel provides a versatile, enjoyable way to learn a new language that actually sticks. Not only that, but Babbel's lessons are created by real language teachers from around the world, and the lessons focus on preparing you for situations that you will actually encounter in the real world, like perhaps how to properly order a couple of coffees from a cafe in a French-speaking country.
Monsieur, 2 cafés s'il vous plaît.
Perhaps you want to travel to some new countries soon and want to be able to interact with locals properly and get the full experience. The ability to engage in a foreign country's local language creates a completely different experience that makes it even more profound. Or perhaps you want to learn a new language for personal and professional reasons, like interest in particular cultures, social networks, or businesses. Or perhaps you want to expand your cognitive capabilities and further your understanding of the mind and the way you can think about this reality. Whatever your reasons are, Babbel is a fantastic way to start and/or continue your journey toward learning new languages. Use the link in the description below and receive up to 65% off your subscription today. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching in general, and see you next video.